Well, Georgia had another scrimmage on Saturday afternoon, kind of blustery conditions. Going to talk about that for a little bit and more about what's in our What We Are Hearing article that you can click on right down below. It's a very insider look at what happened at the scrimmage and beyond. But the big thing that I want to touch on right now is Amarius Mims, according to a couple people we've talked to, has not been at practice on Thursday and was not seen, at least at the scrimmage on Saturday, leading people to wonder what in the world is going on there. One thing that I write about in what we're hearing this week is how Kirby, the last time we had him, which was a week ago, well, 5 days ago, 6 days ago, was that he had this comment about Amarius Mims, which is we look at the offensive line and I'm like, man, wow, look how far Amarius Mims has come. Look how far this guy's grown and gotten better. So I don't know what's going on with Amarius Mims. I don't. But it would not be out of the realm of possibility that with all the static that's going on right now, that he could be looking to transfer. Uh, but I don't know that. So that's one thing that came out of the scrimmage Saturday because people would like to see him play. And when you have that sort of talent available to you, it's something that you want to take advantage of. And we'll just see what happens there. I don't know that he's looking to transfer. I don't know that he's not, but that he's reportedly not just coming from people I talked to. Man, I think it's pretty much out there that he has not been at practices of late. The last two practices, at least, it sounds like. We'll just see where it goes from there. I did want to point out, remember, I'll be at UGA Red Zone, which is right here. You can see the information on Clayton, downtown in Athens. You see the phone number, you see the website. You can pick up DAWGSTRUCTION. That will be down there. I'll be there Friday from noon until close. You can pick up DAWGSTRUCTION there from me, or you can order it below. I will sign it for you if you'd like. Uh, at Red Zone. Again, that's on Clayton Street in Athens. Uh, really cool shop, very good clothing store, and has a bunch of stuff that is really cool for any Georgia fan. Really neat buttons, actually. Keely is my favorite Beatle. Oh, no, I'm sorry, Ringo is my favorite Beatle. It's one of those days. All right, the scrimmage, not as what's the word? The first time you see something that you've not seen in a while, you have initial responses. There was a lot that happened in the last scrimmage that was similar to this one. I'm going to touch on two things. I usually touch on way too many things, but I'm going to try to quickly go through a couple of things. First of all, Stetson Bennett, I think, is having a very positive uh, spring. One insider put it to me this way. Make sure I get this right. Where did I write that? I think what Kirby is trying to say is that we haven't seen some of the bizarro beep we've seen in the past, really in 2020, that Stetson used to do. He's had a good spring. What Kirby said the other day in response to that, what I just read was someone's response to what Kirby said the other day. Kirby said this the other day. He said Stetson makes a good throw or run, or he runs the ball, and those are two positive things that Stetson's done. He has been really consistent this spring doing that. He does not have the snafus that he used to have just because he tried to force the ball in. He hasn't done that. Now, if you recall, in the Alabama game specifically in 2020, that was a time when he really hurt them when they were down in the fourth quarter, throwing the ball across his body under pressure. That ended the game. I mean, Georgia was. Well, I don't know that they were in control of that game in the first half, that they had the lead going into the half. Um, but the third quarter, going into the fourth, Georgia got down. Stetson tried to make a play. That's the sort of stuff that we've not seen as much. Like, nobody's got a problem with Stetson taking off running because he's really good at that. people have a problem with him trying to make a play, doing something that's beyond what he has to do. I think, frankly, anytime he's where he needs to be in terms of staying on schedule with the downs and so forth, he doesn't typically try to make those mistakes. But you could see it make those plays, which turn into mistakes. But you could see it last year. I mean, he really didn't do that stuff nearly as much. I mean, that was the part of his play that grew the most, I think. I think the Auburn game was when I started really picking up on it the most. He just didn't force things. The other aspect of this week's what we were hearing, because you never know what you're going to get out of these scrimmages. Oh, let me point this out as well. I think from what we understand, Dominic Blaylock had a good day. Eric Gilbert continues having good days. Seems like Carson is the two, but we'll see. I don't think that's something that's necessarily decided. But it is one thing that kind of gets pointed out. I talked to an SEC insider and a person who uh, kind of focuses on the SEC, but is more of a national person. And I've known this person for a long time. He's great, and I wanted to just we just talked a little bit on Thursday about some stuff, and I jotted down some notes from our conversation, and we talked a lot about the league. We talked about Clemson a little bit, Ohio State a little bit, and then we talked about the league and USC a little bit, and then we talked about the league a lot. Auburn, Florida, and the Dogs in Alabama. You can't get in a conversation with anybody talking about Georgia without talking about Alabama, and vice versa. It seems these days. But one thing I would encourage you to do in terms of clicking on this week's article for what we were hearing, it comes out on Sundays, is sort of some of the criticism of Georgia that you see out there nationally, and then the criticism of everybody else. And when I say criticism, I don't mean hate or being a hater. I mean what are the critiques? What's the thing? I'll let y'all click on the link below to see what's being said about the dogs. Uh, but one thing in particular, one statement that was said um, in the conversation with this guy, um, talking about what the future holds for Georgia, because I had the same conversation with him that I've got with everybody else, which is, we know Georgia and Alabama and probably Ohio State really right now seem like they're in a really good position. And we talked about Clemson, we talked about USC, we talked about some other teams, Florida, as I said. But this is the one part that I think is maybe what people remember from this, what we're hearing more than the scrimmage or the Amarius Mims stuff. He said the title validates Kirby. It was the only thing left. Everyone had rings, and they had them recently. Georgia didn't. And to do that against Alabama after the loss to Nick in December, it could not have lined up better. Everyone knows he can do it because it's been done now. I think it gives Georgia the same sort of leeway we've seen at Alabama from recruits. And, the reason why I talk so much about Georgia, Alabama, and Ohio State is the three of them in the last 4 years have been recruiting at a level that other schools have not. Now, Texas A&M had an exceptional class this year, but over a 4 year stretch, I don't, I think most people would agree that Texas A&M has not had a 4 year run the way that Georgia, Bama, and Ohio State have. And on top of that, they've certainly not gotten it done on the field. I mean, they've not even won an SEC West. One thing that's not in what we were hearing that I had about this conversation with this person was, if you beat Alabama, you should win the West. Now that doesn't always happen. We've seen Mississippi had success against Bama and not gone on to win the West, and the West is tough. But if you're Texas A&M and and you beat Alabama and you wind up with 4 losses on the year, I mean, how does that happen? So it's not this is not a criticism of Texas A&M, and I don't want to get off on that tangent, but um, I think there's a lot. One reason I'd read this is because there's a lot of it I don't go into detail with because it's a premium service. It's something we offer our subscribers, and we really value our subscribers. I'm not just going to give everything away, but when you look at the landscape, and we're closing all of the spring practices. It's tough at Auburn right now. I think at Florida, they're trying to build where they're going, and so that naturally is not an ideal situation. Um, but what where we're going here with Georgia and Alabama um, is a curious thing because you know, Alabama has a direct competitor on their side, which is not just Texas A&M, but I would say LSU as well. Although Auburn has had more success, I think, than LSU over the last decade against Bama. But it will be curious to see. And one thing that we talked about that I'm not saying on here is his reaction to Nick. How long will Nick stick around? And did this win that Georgia had over Alabama, did it help with Nick Saban sticking around or hurt? I'll let you check that and find out. Sorry for the long video. I will be at UGA Red Zone. I will see you there Friday and Saturday.